Welcome to this workforce planning webinar. This is the fifth in a series of webinars that we're holding, and the focus of this one is on health and care, and the work that we've been doing with the NHS in England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, and also with the Federation for Informatics Professionals, FEDIP, to develop role profiles for the digital data and technical roles in the NHS. What we've done in terms of the approach and also the tools that we're using are available and can be used across other settings as well. So hopefully, whether you've got an NHS background or not, this session will still be useful to you. And at the end of this, our fifth webinar, we'll make all the webinars available to you. So if you wanted to go back and have a look at some of the other sessions which have a different focus, then you'll be welcome to do so. So just to introduce ourselves, I'm Jan Hoogewerf. I'm the Head of Health and Care at BCS. And I'm joined by Stuart, who is IT business consultant and is the brains behind the development of the NHS role profiles.
Good afternoon.
So what we'll be doing is talking through the process that we've been through, how the role profiles can be used, and there'll be a demo of the tools that you can use with the role profiles. So moving on. Today's session then, we'll start with the challenges, and whether you work in the NHS or elsewhere, I'm sure that these challenges will be all too familiar to you. So, you know, one of them is around lots of different job titles for very similar job roles, different levels as well, that make it very difficult to think about career progression or moving between organisations, and a lack of transparency in terms of the skills and experience that are required for different roles at different levels. I mentioned mobility, and with lots of trusts working together on electronic patient record implementations and bringing together teams from different organisations to make scarce resources available. Mobility is a real issue, and also career paths. I mean, nobody working in digital probably has a sort of a linear career path, but what's really important is knowing what options are available to you and how you need to develop to get into the role that you're really interested in moving into. And finally, this is an issue right across the board, but probably sort of more difficult in health and care and government sector, is staff retention and development. And so these are challenges which I'm sure are familiar to you. But what we're going to cover today is the NHS role profiles and how you can use those both in workforce planning, but also individually to help with professional development, so that you can build a more resilient and expert data, digital and technical team. So where are we with the NHS role profiles? So we've worked on a number of job families. We have 206 role profiles already developed. The ones in green on the slide here are ones that already exist. So with each one of these job families, there are a number of different roles at different levels. The ones in white are the ones that we are working on at the moment. And the aim is to have a full suite of roles that can be made available to you, can be used as a basis for job descriptions, can be used for personal development planning and for workforce planning. And actually, sorry, one of the things I should have said right at the start was, if you've got any questions, please do put them into chat, and there'll be time at the end to go through them and reply. So how did we develop the role profiles? Well, we've used SFIAplus, that's a skills framework for an information age, and that's a globally recognised framework for skills in digital data and tech roles. There's 140 skills, and they're at 7 different levels, from awareness of right up to sort of a leadership specialist expert role. They've been developed with industry, and they have content to support your own development. So they include things like what background's useful for a role, what work activities, knowledge and skills are relevant, what qualifications might be relevant as well, and each skill has a level. So you can see here in this example, you've got a requirements definition and management. We have a description of that. We have a description of the skill at a particular level. And there are components, work activities that are associated with it, skills, training activities, and qualifications. So that's how these roles have been built using this framework. We worked, as I said before, with the 4 nations because we wanted these to be UK-wide. We've consulted with NHS staff working on these jobs in organisations in the NHS, and we've used public sector frameworks. So, for example, DDaT, or the Government Data and Digital Framework, which is used widely across government departments, National Competency Framework for Data Professionals in Health and Care, and the Faculty of Clinical Informatics Core Competency Framework for those clinical roles. So where there's been a framework that's relevant to a particular staff group, that's been used, as well as SFIAplus, to develop the roles. And they're published. You can see them on the FEDIP website. The link's here, and we can make the slides available to you too. So that's how we went about it and developed the job roles. And I think probably much more important than that is now how they look, and how they can be used in workforce planning and personal development planning as well. So I'm now going to hand over to Stuart, who will do a demo of the tool that we use to develop the role profiles, and which you can also use in your own organisation.
Thanks, Jan. So what I'd like to do now is a very light touch kind of whistle-stop tour through some of the functionality of the RoleModelplus system. So this is a web-hosted system that is individual sites are deployed to individual customers. Within that, the system can do various things, but I want to cover 4 key pieces of functionality. Here you can see in the site we put together for the Federation of Informatic Professionals, these are the roles that Jan was referring to in the areas she highlighted in green that we've already built. As you can see, there are quite a large number of them. We also do have some roles still in the process of being built, which were the white areas that Jan was talking about. And if I pick one of those, so I'm currently working to build a clinical coder role. And if I open that up, you can see that we can put in a role summary. We have various frameworks that are that have been pre-deployed in the system or built in the system. So this is Faculty of Clinical Informatics. We've also got, as Jan referred to, Government Digital and Data, and this is all the skills at all the levels that are contained in that framework. SFIAplus, which again has a number of skills at various different levels, and within those skills at levels, you'll see the granular detail that was being talked about. So background, work activities, which describes what somebody in a role does, various different types of skills, behavioral, technical, other, which is business and professional. Other frameworks we've built, we've looked at some behaviours leadership management from the NHS. We've also looked at, when building the data roles, data analytics, analytics engineering, data governance, etc. And what these roles enable us to do is to generate industry, or what these frameworks enable us to do, to generate industry standard roles. So essentially, once we've created them within the system, they are data sources that we can use to generate content that hopefully will allow some degree of commonality between the roles that we're creating, and therefore some degree of mobility for people working in digital and technology, so that if they need to move from one organization to another, they know that they're going to be doing roughly the same sort of role at its core, and the organizations know that they're going to get somebody with a core set of skills. All of this is editable, so where the framework doesn't say quite the right thing, we can edit that. You can see the little dark spanner means that I've done quite a lot of editing to make this specifically relevant to this role. Once the roles have been created and published, what individuals who are allocated those roles can then do is they can go into those roles in the My Development section, and they can think about, where am I strong? And are there any elements of this role that will be useful for me to develop and grow? So this is a role I allocated to myself just for the purposes of this this session. And you can see in the work activities, we've looked at where somebody feels they're fully capable, where somebody thinks that this particular work activity or an element of it may be a useful area for their professional development. This is done through a self-assessment benchmarking, but all of these benchmarkings are then ratified by the individual's line manager, unless an organization chooses to switch that piece of functionality off. Once ratified by a manager, it gives them an approved capability gap. So this person is has a 19% capability gap, which means that they have an 80% compliance, if you like, with the requirements of their role. Most of these roles are available on the FEDIP website, but one of the things we are also advising people to do when looking at that is you don't have to just take the role as it is. You can further tailor it to be specific to your particular area of the NHS or any other business that you happen to work in. And again, if using the standard roles, we would work with you or take you through a process of further customizing those roles to make them fit for purpose for your organization. Once the individuals have benchmarked and identified those elements that will be useful for their professional development, they can take that into the organization's development planning, or if the organization wishes, they can create their own online development plan. You can have more than one of these, so you could have one that is for your current role, you could have one for an aspirational role, and it just allows you to identify, break down, and work on those areas that are going to be useful for your development and growth. In addition, you can create pathways within the organization, and this is simply where you group together logical sets of roles. And because elements of the roles are shared, so there'll be work activities potentially or knowledge and skills that are in more than one role. When you benchmark against your own role, you begin to generate your own skills capability record. And the system will match that to other published roles. So in this instance, I've put my role into this pathway. And here's my compliance with my own role. But you can see I'm starting to build up a picture of other roles that I may have some degree of compatibility with. If I click on one of those, I can go in and I can see at a high level where I have skills that are relevant, what other skills I may need to develop. And I can go into that role in more detail and look at what do I need to do, what skills do I need, what does somebody in this role do, what technical knowledge do they need. Well, I've already benchmarked some of those, so I already have some of that. And it allows you to start thinking about what potentially is your next step. All of this also generates insight for the organization. So for managers and people with the correct permissions, there's also a suite of reporting. So this will show you things such as how far along in the process people have moved, what's the overall capability gap for the organization or for the data and digital part of that organization. And you can break that down. So if I just want to look at development and test, I can just look at development and test, which has quite a high capability gap. And I can further break that down and see, is that in testing? No. Is it in solutions architecture? No. Actually, it's all in software development. So now I can start to see the areas of the organization that potentially need more investment in their professional development and think about whether that represents a risk. You can also see things like, are there any themes emerging? Are lots of people asking for the same kinds of professional development? You can look at your overall skills capability landscape. So you can run reports based on the skills that people say they have. You can look at skills in comparison to roles. So are there any particular roles where potentially we have skills gaps? So if I look at project manager, for example, and I look at the details of that, I can see that we have some skills gaps against some of the skills needed for those roles. And then I can look at who those people are and what those skills gaps look like. You can also run reports like candidate analysis, where you can match roles to people, people to roles. So if I have a particular role that I think I might need to fill, you could ask yourself, do we need to go to market? Or actually, are there people in the organization who have some degree of match to those roles? So it allows the organization to look at all of its skills and capabilities, plan its getting a biggest bang for its buck from its learning and development budget, and also look at any kind of areas of vulnerability, as well as work with individuals on their professional development and their career journey and mobility within the organization. Okay, Jan, back to you.
Great, thanks very much. So thanks, Stu. That was a whistle-stop tour of RoleModelplus, which really brings to life the roles that have been developed and makes them available within your organisation to use for workforce planning and personal development planning. The slide that's up at the moment, I'm not going to go to in detail, but it gives a pictorial image of the process that's involved in the workforce planning and personal development planning. So you can see how role model can be used within your organisation. So that's it from us in terms of the demonstration and run through of the process that we went through in developing the role profiles. And we're happy to take now any questions that you might have. I saw there was one earlier about how we keep the frameworks that we use and the job roles up to date, given the constantly evolving, particularly in things like AI, but constantly evolving skill requirements and job roles. And I've responded to that sort of in chat, but what we do is we do keep up to date with the frameworks, the skills frameworks such as SFIA and DDaT. They are regularly updated, and we update them in the role model tool. We also do that with other frameworks as well. So we are in close contact with the National Competency Framework for data professionals, for example, and we've incorporated some new roles. I think there's one around machine learning already in the tool. So we aim to keep up to date and relevant in that sort of way.
Can
Stu,
I
is there
add to that?
anything?
Yeah. So there's always a balance to be struck when you're creating role profiles in the first place. Some organizations want all role profiles created based on what their target operating model is, though clearly that changes over time. Some people want very much roles created in the here and now, and anywhere in between. So when we create roles in the first place, we will be working with you to understand if you're going through known changes and transitions in sort of short to medium term, and can we actually incorporate that in the role so that people start to develop some of the skills that they're going to need further down the track. The roles themselves are all version controlled. SFIAplus is updated every 2 years, and if we've stuck with standard content from frameworks, as that gets updated, if you refresh the version, it will bring it to the latest version of the framework. Doesn't work quite so well if we've done a lot of customization, because then essentially you're breaking that link between industry standard and what's being done for the role. But you can use the version control of the role profiles to refresh them periodically.
Great, thank you, Stu. Any other questions? So there's one here again from Lindsay about whether you can see older and newer versions. Yes. Stu,
Yes.
do you want to?
Yeah. So when you create a new version of a role, it will stay in the background until you choose to publish it. So your role that people have will stay there. You can work on that new role to the point where you publish it, at which point it will overwrite essentially the role that was there before. People will only have to redo their benchmarking against anything new or changed. The system keeps a version of the old role, so you can see that, but not only does it keep a version of the old role, it actually has an extra tab which will show everything that has changed between the version that was there and the new version that's replaced it.
Great, thank you. I hope that's answered your question. Any other questions? Those are great questions, by the way. Thank you. And so, if there are no further questions, then do get in touch with us. I'm aware that this has been quite a gallop through, and we're happy to spend more time with you, running through what RoleModelplus can do, the role profiles, how they work, and how you can use them in your organisation. So the final slide is just our contact details. Please get in contact with either me or Stu, and we'd be really happy to answer more questions and help you further. So thanks very much for joining us today. I hope it's been useful and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you.